I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for Life in the UK test part 394. The 20th century to the present day. While doing leg stretching, and if you participate in the leg stretching, that is at your own risk. And that is on page 163. So we're bringing both legs out, and we're having flexed feet, and we don't have them to the outside, we have them together, leaning in front, and you can pull them in. But before we do it, let's go for a little moment over the last things. We want to know what happened here with the Act of Parliament 1870 and 1882. Acts of Parliament in 1870 and 1882 gave wives the right to keep their own earnings and property. Until 1870, when a woman got married, her earnings, property and money automatically belonged to her husband. They were not so much in details. What happened what? 1870, an Act of Parliament allows women to keep their earnings, property and money when we get married. And 1882, an Act of Parliament gives a woman the right to keep their own earnings and property. 1870, 1882, two acts giving women the right, also against their husband, to keep their money when they earn it, and their property when they have. And the next exercise, one leg in and just one leg out. And then the Boer War was also. The Boer War of 1899 until 1902 made the discussions about the future of the empire more urgent. The British went to war in South Africa with settlers from the Netherlands called the Boers. The Boers fought fiercely, and the war went on for over 3 years. Many died in the fighting, and many more from disease. There was some public sympathy for the Boers, and people began to question whether the empire could continue. As different parts of the empire developed, they won greater freedom and autonomy from Britain. Eventually, by the second half of the 20th century, there was, for the most part, an orderly transition from empire to commonwealth, with countries being granted their independence. Okay, the 20th century to the present day. The study materials break the 20th century down into several sections. These are the First World War, the interwar period, the Second World War, and then the decades that make up post-war Britain, such as the swinging 60s. It's by far not enough breakdown. So the first thing is 1913. The Home Rule is introduced in Parliament, proposing a self-governing Ireland with its own Parliament, and the changing the leg. So in 1913 there was the Home Rule Bill introduced into the Parliament, and that was the idea that Ireland should govern itself. Then the First World War, 1914-1918. Then on the 28th June 1914, that was basically the initiation. It was all set up, but that was the thing that ignited it all. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria is assassinated, setting off a chain of events which leads to World War I. So on the 28th June 1940, we may gonna ask, what is the starting of the First World War or whatever? And maybe you even know about Franz Ferdinand, but you think, what are the big driving forces, or what mentality, or what is it? They probably just gonna ask for the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary. So on the 28th June 1914, the Archduke of Austria, and his name Franz Ferdinand, and also his wife, are assassinated. And to the next exercise. We are in 90 position with the legs. Both legs are having 90 degrees. We are with our hands at the knee behind us, and we're leaning with the shoulder to the knee in front of us. On the 1st July 1916, a British attack known as the whole battle is the Battle of the Somme. Not the attack is known as the Battle of the Somme. A British attack known as the Battle of the Somme results in 60,000 British casualties on the first day alone. So there was the big Battle of the Somme with over 1 million people dying there in that battle. And On one day, the British troops attacked there, and on that day, 60,000 of the British soldiers were then recorded as casualties, so as dead or wounded. On the 1st July 1960. And when in 1960, Irish nationalists revolt against delays in the implementation of Home Rule for Ireland. Leaders of the failed revolt, which was known as the Eastern Rising, are executed under martial law. So in 1916 there was the Eastern Rising in Ireland. Irish nationalists revolted against delays of the Home Rule for Ireland. The people wanted to wait in Britain for the end of the First World War. And there was the Eastern Rising. The Eastern Rising and the leaders of that Eastern Rising were under martial law, sentenced and shot, executed. So we are changing the side. We are. I think ironing is not bad. To say that we are currently doing it, not just that we are, but we are. So we are before next 1990 position. We are with our hands at the knee behind, because we will continue to do this also. It's not. We are ironing. So we are ironing with our hands. We are with our hands at the knee behind of us, and we're leaning with the shoulder to the knee in front of us. In 1918, women over the age of 30 are given the right to vote and stand for parliament. So 1918, maybe you're going to ask that. Women over the age of 30 have now the right in the United Kingdom to vote and also to stand for parliament. And the First World War ends at 11 o'clock on the 11th of November 1918. Then the interwar period. In 1921, following a guerrilla war against the police and British Army in Ireland, a peace treaty is signed with Irish nationalists. So in 1921 there was a guerrilla war going on against the police and British Army in Ireland, and in 1921 a peace treaty is signed with the Irish nationalists. In 1922 Ireland is separated into two countries. The six mainly Protestant countries in the north remain part of the UK as Northern Ireland. The rest of Ireland becomes the Irish Free State. The Northern Ireland Parliament is established, and again into 1990 with the Lakes and Virginia just in front. So in 1922 is Ireland separated into two countries. Northern Ireland, with 6 Protestant regions, Northern Ireland, and they are Protestant because England is Protestantic. So that's easy to remember, I said it already. Or that's the way to remember it, if it's not known. And the rest becomes the Irish Free State, and a Northern Ireland Parliament is established. In 1928, women are given the right to vote at 21, the same age as men. So in 1928, women got the same right to vote as men. In 1928. And this is the last thing we are listening for the interwar period. Now, and that is that in the year 1933, in Germany, Adolf Hitler comes to power. That is the year where the NSDAP under Adolf Hitler won the election, when he got more power followed over the following years. But okay, he comes to power. Yes, I just means to cow power, that is not taken literally. In that year he became the German, I don't know what the name actually is, what the office was. So in 1933 the NSDAP won the elections, and the leader of them, Adolf Hitler, became the leader of Germany. In 1939, did Hitler invade Poland together with the Soviet Union? And Britain and France declare war on Germany in response to this aggression. We're going to the pigeon pose. Do it only if you know how to do the pigeon pose without changing yourself. So in 1939, the Second World War starts on the 1st September, when Hitler, so the German troops, invade Poland together with the Soviet Union. That is a very important detail. And Britain and France declaring war on Germany in response to this aggression. Then we're having here the Prime Minister is now Winston Churchill during the Second World War, all the time here now. On the 1st May 1940, Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister. So on the 1st May 1940 did Winston Churchill become Prime Minister. In 1940, German forces defeat Allied forces and advance through France. So in 1940, the German troops are occupying France. In the summer 1940, the Royal Air Force wins the crucial air battle, the Battle of Britain against the German Air Force. So in the summer of 1940, the Battle of Britain is happening, and the Royal Air Force, so the British people, are winning against the German Air Force. And they named us two of the planes used, and these are the Spitfire and Hurricane. Spitfire and Hurricane are two British. Spitfire and Hurricane. June 1940 until June 1941. Until the German invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941, Britain and the Empire stand alone against Nazi Germany, almost alone. So France was almost always occupied. There were resistance fighters in many areas, and also many other countries were occupied. Some countries were trying to be neutral, but more or less Britain was alone fighting against Nazi Germany for 1 year, from June 1940 until June 1941. And then Germany attacks the Soviet Union. And now the Soviet Union was also starting to attack Germany. Or Germany had great losses in the Soviet Union. We're going to the next exercise. No, it's the same exercise, but on the other side. First 1990 and the front. 1941, the Social Insurance and Allied Services Report, the Barrett Report, is commissioned. So in 1941, the Social Insurance and the Allied Services Report, known as the Barrett Report, is commissioned. That is important for the welfare state then. In 1941, Richard Orson Butler, oversees the introduction of the Education Act, 1944, often called the Butler Act. And it introduced free secondary education in England and Wales and creates primary and secondary stages of education. So 1941, the Butler Act by Richard Orson Butler, or the Education Act 1944, introduces the secondary education for free, and now there's school primary and secondary school. On the 6th June 1940, I was already missing, we skipped that one. December 1941, on the 7th December 1941, did Japan bomb Pearl Harbor, which is a US naval harbor, and the US enters World War II. Going to the picture post alternately. So in December 1941, did Japan attack the US naval base in Pearl Harbor, and that results in the United States entering the Second World War. That would be very interesting for something, a part of it, what that series. Because, just take the note just aside, but Germany very fastly declared war on the United States as part of an alliance together with the Japanese Empire. Basically, the point would be, did Nazi Germany declare war on the United States earlier as the United States on Nazi Germany? I think, no, but just take that apart. It's not really a part. I think it's the following. The Japanese basically declared war on the United States with the attack. And I think it's followed then also. And the United States declared war on Japan, and Germany declared war as allied with the Japanese Empire, war on the United States. But that would be something interesting to look at. So, December 1941, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, and the United States entering the Second World War, and now Britain is not fighting alone anymore. The Soviet Union is already helping because Nazi Germany had attacked them, and now the United States are also helping because, again, aggression was done. On the 6th June 1944, Allied forces land in Normandy. This is known as D-Day. So on the 6th June 1941, the Allied forces are starting to land in Normandy and to liberate Europe from Nazi Germany. And we're going to the last exercise. The sounds of the feet up together. You're sitting tall up. And we're leaning in front. And we don't have time left. We will continue in the next part. I think very much. And until next time.